Hey guys, Spidey09 here, and I hope you're having a marvelous day. We have an incredible roundtable discussion of Marvel cards, baby, with many of the Marvel card YouTube content creators around. And this is going to be a ton of fun. Glad you all are joining us. And look, we've got 10, 11, 12 different YouTube content creators here. So it's going to be a lot of people to hear from. And I'm going to moderate that time. I'm going to ask questions. We're going to be paying attention to your questions as well. And yeah, we've got a lot to learn about and hear about what's going on right now in this hobby. There's been quite a few changes. So let's get the content creators on. And here they are. Look at them. Yeah, looking good, guys. How's it going? So we've got, I'll just go through real quick. We got Sketch Card Hive, the one and only, the professor, as I like to call him. We've got Gigiman Cards, our kind of market man who gives us the latest in Marvel card sales and transactions. We got the one and only Brian, the amazing spider guy, who put together one of the most amazing PMG sets you have ever seen. We got Joshua with Marvel Madness, and he's a YouTube content creator and really supports the community really well. We got the breaker of Marvel cards, guys. We've got Cards of Metal, Ian Fisher, who also really kind of got this PMG craze going with his sales of his Spider-Mans. We got the magician, Merle. Welcome here to us. I got to meet him for the first time in Dallas recently, which was really cool. We got Swami. Swami, I don't think you're new to Marvel cards, but you moved from Marvel cards from Pokemon, right?
Yeah. I've been collecting Marvel since mid 2020 after Pokemon blew up. Kind
Oh
of
no, you're an
made the
OG now
switch.
because compared to a lot of us, no, it's good. And then probably doesn't need an introduction. We got Neo from Neo Cards and Comics. Super awesome to have him here. Just what he does for Marvel Cards is great. And then we got Bill Watch Me Open. His channel, it's a lot of great Marvel card content. And then I'm going to add in a couple of others here we've got in the stream. We've got Kent, Marvel Guy 239. And we also have Mr. Daniel Dunn here from Valor Comics. He is actually really brand new to Marvel cards, and I wanted to bring him in as kind of that new perspective and hear from him. So we got quite a few content creators here. And yeah, it's going to be a fun show. We've got tons of people in the comments already. And like I said, guys, we will get to your comments later. I really wanted to open up with just a kind of a question for you guys. You know, we've seen changes in Marvel cards quite a bit, and but there's been some recent changes, and doesn't seem so much sale driven as it seems like maybe how many people are coming into the hobby within the last couple of weeks. So my first question I'm going to just throw here to Mr. Sketch Card. Have you seen a shift or a change in the hobby recently? Is that something you're feeling as well? You're muted. You're muted.
I tried desperately not to interrupt anybody else
You did. You did good.
because I talk forever. So no, there's been an amazing amount of changes in Marvel cards, and I think another wave's coming. Recently, so many things have changed with collections moving to different hands, price points. The audience is just getting bigger and bigger on Marvel. So yes, I think we're about to hit another really big wave on Marvel cards.
Yeah. So
I think
Brian, oh, sorry, Gigi. Yeah. So
I
Brian,
think yeah.
you've been in this for quite a bit as well. Have you seen a change recently?
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's kind of echoing the same points as Sketch, that we have an influx of new buyers, new collectors, investors. You've got a new class, I guess you could say, of people coming in and doing something different to the hobby. So I'm with you. It's gonna jump up again, and we're all gonna be, I think, in for a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. So Gigi, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I forgot the format. Yeah, so actually, I think Dallas, and again, you've repped really well, Spidey. I've seen a real impact personally on prices. Obviously, a lot of DMs in Instagram and Facebook groups you've seen like yourselves. But this is, again, as Sketch said, early.
Early. So Merle, you were in Dallas, and
Yes, I
since you
was.
mentioned it, have you really felt a change since Dallas? Is that a kind of a mile marker for you?
Oh, big time. Because Dan, the great curator, as you all know, I set up a lot of times with him, and that was my first Dallas show. And Dan said, Merlin, you're gonna love the show, and bring all your weird stuff, dude. Bring your oddball stuff. Bring your non-sports. Bring your Marvel. Bring your Star Wars. Bring your wrestling. Don't bring any sports. And I brought a few sports, and it got all overlooked. The Marvel was a huge hit on Dan and my table both. They were just, and I just not just the PMGs, because Dan, had his eye on the PMGs. He was the huge hit with the PMGs, but I had a lot of just everything across the table. Graded Marvel cards, modern and vintage. So a lot of the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s stuff was a huge hit.
Very cool. So Neo, I think you have probably the most unique perspective from a content creating standpoint, is specifically because of how long and how big your channel has been, which was primarily sports focused, if I recall, and then started having some shifts into comic cards in the early 2021s, maybe late 2020s. What changes are you seeing of late in Marvel cards?
It seems like I agree. Dallas is a big jump to the market. I think the recent golden auctions pre-Dallas prime the pump, if that makes sense. Because we had, what was it, 2 golden auctions in a row where there was massive sale, like whole sets sold, individual Spider-Man sold for massive amounts. So we saw the initial wave back in early 2021 with 90 MU, and the whole market got a little bit of a hit from that, but it seems like it's kind of leveled up to the next level with the rise of the PMGs the last month or two with those 2 golden auctions. But now you're seeing it jump to everything else. A lot of other stuff the last 30 days has started to really spike in price. Before it went from 90 MU to PMGs to now it's basically anything that has a number on the back, I'm just instantly buying it the second it pops up on eBay, is what a lot of people are doing right now, I think.
So, Neo, you mentioned, the way you're buying Marvel cards. I'm going to throw this to Bill at Watch Me Open. So, Bill, have you seen a change in just the speed of which cards are being sold, or in the way in which people are approaching selling Marvel cards? Kind of the thought process behind it?
Absolutely. And so from my perspective, as someone who opens a lot of boxes, sometimes foolishly, I have I have to always watch what the sealed prices are, because that's the meat and potatoes of my channel. And you can see the jump in prices of sealed product in the last 4 months is ridiculous. And so obviously there's 2 reasons for that. You're always going to expect that sealed product is going to become more expensive as time goes on, because people are going to realize that more of it's been opened, so there's less of it sealed. But the jump that we've seen the last 4 months isn't just that. It's an added, there's a premium on those prices for the popularity and for this little boom that we're seeing right now, where over the summer, 2020, 2018 masterpieces, $400 a box. Now it's $700 a box.
Right.
We're talking about 6 months, and that's insane. So
Ian, you do a lot of box breaks where you invite people in to buy into breaks, on Instagram and on your Whatnot channel. What changes have you seen? Because you've been doing that since what? Maybe August last year, September, is that right?
I started back in July.
And then how has it changed since July? Which it really isn't that long ago in the scheme of things, but it feels like a little while in Marvel cards right now.
Yeah, it just depends on what's going on. The Spider-Man metal has really changed the way people are buying and what they're looking for. So a lot of people hold off, then they push back, and then people buy in. Christmas happens, so everybody's not buying. So it's been a little bit different. This the last couple months has been a big change in the way people are buying their cards.
Yeah, because the inventory that they were looking for was Spider-Man metal, and then now that's not there. What about uptick in attendance in those things?
It's been kind of off, back and forth. It just depends. Depends on the day.
Got you. So, Joshua Madness, as a content creator, have you seen a shift in just the way Marvel card content is being consumed?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I've seen out there for, everyone like you, Spidey, and all that stuff, you're talking about what's the next PMG, what's the next card out there, and you're talking to the battle gems, but there's the roll of foils. There's just a lot of cards out there, as Sketch Card Hive even said before with the 90 MU. I mean, we had a comment that asked 1990 Marvel Universe box sealed is selling for 1K ish. How lucky will it go to 10K or 100K? It's never gonna hit that. This is 90 MU. It's probably going to stay around the same price. People just don't know about the cards out there right now. I mean, I got these two cards right here. These preserved amber, right?
Mhm.
We've seen some of these cards just recently go for quite a bit. This is a one of 175, and this is two of 15. So they're bigger cards out there that, there's only 5 of one of them, so just in the Flare Ultra Spider-Man and all that stuff, I've seen the content shift from, it seems like, oh, there's these cool cards out here and all that stuff, to more, hey, these cards are actually selling for this, and they're just going with the market, I guess. But
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it.
Awesome. So, Kent, speaking of the change, you have a sports card background, correct?
Yep.
And then you didn't make a shift in the Marvel cards. You went all in. You got Marvel cards, baby, written across your forehead right now, and you created your brand and your channel, and obviously what you're collecting. So tell me about that change and the way you see kind of sports card guys specifically moving into Marvel cards.
Well, it's funny, today I did a local show. I actually set up for the first time. It's just a small show. It's up in North Fort Myers. There's probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 tables max at a bingo hall. It's just funny, right? But I was, of course, the only person with any Marvel stuff. There was one other guy that had a couple in HGA slabs that was just, he was doing it kind of for fun. But the biggest conversation that I really had with all these sports people was about pop reports and the amount of different cards that people are chasing or are after, or in the sports side of things, when there aren't that many as far as Marvel stuff goes, even though we know there's more than they know of because everybody's just after the PMG, right? So once I started explaining to people, I just had some Planet Metal stuff out there because I try to bring stuff other than PMGs. I only had 3 PMGs in my case. I try to bring some lower end stuff to get other people, looking at stuff that, hey, you don't have to spend $1,000 on a card to get into Marvel. And even just pointing out a copper Wolverine Planet Metal or Storm, it's numbered out of 85.
Awesome.
And when they're talking, and I had a Patrick Mahomes PSA 10 that's worth $2,500. There's 500 of those. Right. So it's just a different mindset. Once people on it, the biggest thing is they don't really see that there's value yet in it. It's starting to get there, and we know, a lot of people that have seen the value and are spending the money. But once it becomes more mainstream of, oh, these really are valuable, and they're numbered, and they're limited, and they're beautiful, that's when I think it really kind of takes off.
Yeah, and you have a great perspective coming from that sports card background and seeing what's special and rare in Marvel cards. So, Sammy, Swami, Swami, that brings me to you. So you have a Pokemon background, and you mentioned backstage or earlier on that you've been in the Marvel cards for almost 2 years now. What has been the main attraction, say, in comparison to Pokemon, into Marvel cards as shifting in your collection?
It's scarcity. So there's scarcity all over Marvel. It's crazy. I was reading some of these comments. I was upset this weekend missing out on emeralds, Scarlet Witch emerald for $30. I think I picked up a Magneto emerald for $30 Rittenhouse, and it's just like this. The scarcity is just out of this world. You can go to first edition base set pops, and they blow Marvel out of the water. Now, maybe not with the 10s, but the 9s just blow Marvel out of the water. But even you start to learn about sets, and non-numbered cards are scarce. Like these modern sets, they have so many inserts. It turns out, there's only 140 of that insert anyway. Might not be numbered, but it's just so much fun. I mean, I was searching, Rittenhouse stuff, those emeralds, those rubies. Rubies popped up yesterday, Wolverine, Iron Man. I was upset that I missed the auction. I just was airheading it and missed the final. It's just like I hadn't even seen those in a year and a half of searching Rittenhouse, Ruby, and it's almost like the PMGs and the prices there are getting Marvel old school collectors to kind of piece out their collection, and no one's ready to pick it up. It's just going way low on so many things for how scarce they are and rare it is. It's wild. It's crazy.
Yeah, I swear eBay hides stuff from me. Like I watched Genji's market update and something sells. I'm like, I swear I searched for that. I never saw it. So
Hey, Spidey, real quick, I want to say something. I've
Yeah.
watched Gingy's videos and saw one time his search criteria, and I copied it.
good point.
That's smart, man.
Well, I want to go to Daniel Dunn with Valor because Daniel's new to collecting. And so, Daniel, how long would you say you've been collecting Marvel cards now?
A month.
A month? But you've been collecting comic books for what, your lifetime?
10 years.
Yeah.
Being an avid and serious collector of comic books, 10 years.
You got some good ones behind you too. So I really want your perspective on this. We're in the theme of change. Like, what changed in your mindset as a comic book collector, like all-in comic book collector, and say, you know what, I actually want to liquidate some of these books and get into Marvel cards?
Well, on the same topic that's been talked about is scarcity. When it comes to a comic book, let me grab one right by me, for example. So here you have Fantastic Four 48, first appearance of Silver Surfer and Galactus, right? It's a great key issue book to have. But that's all there is to it. It's a key issue that's expensive. There's not any kind of scarcity to it. You have it, you have it. But then, say, if you start looking into things like the 13 Fleer medals, right? Or the Galactus. It was the red PMG that I was looking at this morning, which costs almost equivalent to that graded book, but there's only 100 of those versus how many thousands there are of that comic.
No, it's an excellent point. Excellent point. So Neo, you collect sports cards, comics, and obviously have some Marvel card collections. So what would you say is the main attraction of Marvel cards that is missing in those other hobbies, whether it's sports cards and or comics, or is there anything missing?
I think it's some of the same overlaps. I mean, you see that people talked about the scarcity side a lot. I think a lot of people coming in from the sports card side specifically are viewing it as, or at least a portion of it, and just a portion of people coming in general it's the next market that kind of hasn't fully developed yet. So there's money to be made, to be quite frank. Think of it like from the sports card side, we've seen the same thing with like F1. F1 cards really blew up and got super expensive over the last 6 to 8 months because it's very similar to Marvel in that the market is very small and contained. There's a very passionate group behind it, and the print runs are very small. There's not a lot of the cards out there. I mean, F1's a very emerging market, but it's kind of very similar. People were very questioning of it because they're like, it's F1. No one's taking this stuff seriously. But when you have a small group, if you have enough people there for demand to outweigh supply, that's all that it takes. So, that's a very key. We talk about population counts and rarity a lot, but you also have to factor in the demand side. If the demand's not there, then if it's a pop 2, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It'll swing back the other way, and it'll swing back quick.
Yeah, so we've seen a shift in demand. We kind of opened up the show with the fact that we have a growing population of Marvel cards. And Sketch, that's going to bring me back to you. So you've been collecting Marvel cards for upwards to 10 years. Tell me what you think are the elements that are in play right now for Marvel cards that's going to create longevity in the hobby?
Honestly, what's happening now that's going to make longevity in the hobby for a lot of people is the discovery phase. Right now, there are these big ticket items that everyone's running for, and pretty much this was said by a lot of other people. I think what's going to be really exciting is when people see that rarity existing in 90s cards. And I think that's really what's going to change a lot of perspectives on oh, it was overprinted. I think perspectives were changed when it went to grading. I think people are now looking at numbered cards as well. And I think when people start messing around with probably the two hottest words in the hobby right now, and I'm sorry if I'm ruining anybody's day to buy things up, I'm so sorry, EPAC achievements.
Yeah.
When people get into that level of the hobby and they start realizing what the chase is and what the patterns are for Marvel cards, the audience is going to grow a little more organically when there's more product. And we've always talked about this, Spidey, and I've had this conversation with many of you. There's just not a lot out there. So I think demand will be intensified for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. And education is the key, right? And that's one of these. I wanted to do this roundtable with content creators because really you're Marvel card educators, right? You're bringing about passion and excitement, but you're also bringing about education about what makes up these sets and these cards and what makes them special. So I want to go to Brian, the Amazing Spider Guy. So Brian, you've made it publicly known you have some cards or a card going to Golden Auction or at Golden Auction. Is that correct?
Yeah, I could definitely use the plug right now. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I'll be your wingman.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've got my 2017 red PMG and blue PMG sets at Golden right now. The green set I'm holding. I'm keeping that on the sidelines until things change. But yeah, I'm looking at
Do
this.
you want to buy a house? I'm just kidding.
Plural.
House.
I was going to say.
House on Island. Best quote of the stream so far.
Yeah.
That's after the Lamborghinis, guys. Come on.
Yeah. So no, keep going. Please keep going.
Keep me on track, Justin. What was the question again?
Well, so you have cards at Golden. I wanted you to describe a little more in detail on what those are. You said red and blues, but give us a little more detail.
Right. Red and blue full PSA graded sets.
Of what year in cards?
2017.
Yeah, I know what you have, but not everybody else.
Right. And I was a little, dare I say, irked at Golden. They actually didn't have the picture of Blue Spider-Man in with the rest. And I messaged them after launch, and I was like, someone else, I might have been someone here, put it up in the comments, like, hey, Blue Spidey is not in the lot, but they say it's a complete lot. What's going on? And I jump in and I was like, oh shit, yeah, they didn't put it in there. Like, how do you not have Spider-Man in with the set? Right. I messaged them real quick, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll fix that. It took them about 4 days, but yeah, they got it up there. I'm actually really proud, and maybe here in the crowd they can correct me if I'm wrong. My MM50 Blue Miles came in at a PSA 9. Is that the highest on the pop? Because I think the 8 just went for like 20.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone has access to that. I'd be really curious to see where that landed. I had some pretty key 9s in that set. No 10s, sorry.
No, that's the 9s are special and PMGs, and I'm really actually kind of glad you shifted the conversation to PMGs. And I think for some reason we kind of dance around PMGs a little bit, like the card who must not be named, kind of thing. But PMGs are special, and just about everybody here on the stream has a PMG or owns a PMG, right? Or some of us have owned really special PMGs like Ian at Cards and Metal. So I don't think I'm just going to give my answer to my own question here for a second. I don't think PMGs are a flash in a pan, but there is some question about what is the future of PMGs, and that's really what I want to ask you guys. Like, based on where they are today, what do you think the future of that card is, specifically for Marvel PMGs? And Gigi Man, you're a market guy, so I'm going to toss it up to you first.
Yeah, so the market in general is extremely volatile while we're in this kind of discovery phase, right? We all know that. But yeah, PMGs long term, they're going to hold some value. And I got this question today, someone on Instagram, like, I can't tell if it's going to go up or down. Like, I don't know. The market's the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're definitely going to hold a good amount of value. That's the best answer I can give you at this time, I think.
Yeah. So Ian, as someone who's been a part of the PMG story from the very beginning for Marvel, what would you say is going to be the special PMGs into the future in terms of the sets or the colors or the numbering, the characters, whatever you want to focus on?
All of them. I think all of them are, even 20 X-Men.
Wow.
Key characters, though. I think that they eventually will all have their light. I think it's just a matter of time. Because right now, I mean, everybody's focused on 2013, 2015, slowly shifting into 17 with the amazing Spidey guy, obviously. And even we're looking at the Battle Spectre gems right now, right? Everybody knows those are PMGs. That's just what they are. They just have a different name. So you look at those, and then 2020 X-Men, I think they're just like what they were back in the old days. They're selling for under $20, selling for $20, $25, not paying very much attention. But the scarcity is still there, regardless.
You saying we're repeating history?
Yeah. Well, so the difference between these are a little bit different because they don't have blues.
Right.
We don't have bronze. We've got 90 reds. We've got 10 greens. Even though we have a bigger run of them, we have 200 of each one, right? So that's quite a bit. Yeah, some characters won't hold as much weight, but the big characters will, and I think the trend will continue.
And you're specifically talking about 2020 X-Men Metal Universe cards, where all 200 base cards are PMGs, 1 to 10 in green, 11 to 100 in the red. But per character, there's actually fewer of each PMG, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and we haven't seen actual PMGs since 2018 X-Men.
Right.
So it's been a little bit of time. And I think that's smart because of the rumor that Avengers Metal, not going to have them, which I hope so. I hope they continue to reel back the PMGs a little bit, focus on other subsets, and then that'll hold our value.
Yeah. So real quick, just one comment because it answers Brian's question. There are 3 PSA 9 miles, which speaks highly because if one sold and it was not a pop 2 but a pop 3, it still helps your card if it sold for 20,000. That's what you said. Or was it PSA 8 you said sold for 20?
Might have been 8, I think.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible. So, Merle, I want to go to you with PMG. So you were at the Dallas Card Show. Was the talk geared around PMG specifically? And with people who had not seen Marvel cards before, what was their initial reaction? You're muted, my friend. You're muted, bud. Can I unmute him? Let me see if I can unmute him. He's going. Where's he at?
You got
I got him.
Okay.
You got it. Thanks.
I talk too much.
No, you're muted, my friend.
I heard every minute you said though. But if you saw the beginning of one of your videos, you just posted from Dallas last week. I'm on the very beginning of it, and I guess Justin put that on there because the reaction of my face alone and everything was just the honest answer was that it was insane. It was amazing. I felt like Dan and I were the belle of the balls there because we were the ones that had all the Marvel, and you could tell all the dealers were kind of regretting it. And now probably when I go back to Dallas in March, there's probably going to be a lot of Marvel stuff. But everybody was coming up to me because Dan showed about an hour later or 2 later on Thursday when we were doing the preview night. And it was mostly just dealers that night. If you've gone to the Dallas show, Thursday's the preview, and it's just mostly dealers doing, window shopping. And everybody's coming up to me, seeing my oddball stuff, and like, do you have any PMGs? And that was, the question of the week. Do you have any PMGs? And I was like, well, I have, about a handful of them. But my buddy over here, he's got tons. He'll be here about an hour from now. And then they would come over, and the eyes, they had saucer eyes. Everyone had saucer eyes. It was just like that was their quest. And nobody, I heard more, do you have PMGs than do you have John Morant's? Even though that was the number one sports guy was John Morant. That
He's just dropping 50.
What's that?
So he was dropping 50 while you were there.
Exactly. Well, you know what? Spider-Man and the rest of the Marvel Avengers were dropping 50s this week. And a lot of times, Dan had them all. It was like a museum. It was like people going to their favorite museum and seeing their favorite artist, and they couldn't take their eyes off of the prize. Awesome. They just loved looking at them, putting their hands on them, talking about them. And that was, the funnest thing, because if Dan and I's last show, like 2 weeks ago, there was a viewer that just dropped in, a troll that said, these guys, all they're going to do is just pump and dump these things. They don't care about Marvel. And I'm like, well, no, that's not the truth. The truth is that we're telling you our own firsthand experiences, and this is what we're going to do as a dealer. Of course, we have sports cards too, but the thing is, we love doing, selling Marvel and other stuff. And I mean, we were buying it ourselves, and that's another thing too. Is like Dan says, built just like the quote from, and I think that Neo was on the other night, and I said, the quote from Field of Dreams, build it and they will come.
Yeah.
Well, as a dealer, the quote is display it and they will come. And people were coming with their PMGs and their other Marvel stuff and even Star Wars. And I bought and traded a lot of great things. I bought even more PMGs than I probably sold. So, and I'm very happy about that because I don't get that in Los Angeles, believe it or not. I don't have people coming up to me they're usually bringing me a Tua or a Mike Trout PSA 9 card, and I don't even know about baseball.
Yeah.
So to have the PMGs and other Marvel stuff was just pure happiness, pure joy, guys.
Awesome. So Merle, you were going to respond to something. I saw you there.
Okay.
No, not Merle. I mean, Kent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to say one thing. The kind of the way that I look at PMGs and the reason that I'm kind of thankful for them, more than the values, it shined a spotlight on Marvel.
Exactly.
It finally got people's attention. 100%. And that's what's going to be the tip of the iceberg, not the PMG, but the PMG is going to bring the crowd to go, oh, there's more than PMGs. And then they start looking into the rest of it. And that's how you get a Marvel audience.
The rising tide raises all ships.
And if you also saw that,
hey, real quick, Merle,
Sorry,
I'm gonna
get
to Joshua.
Okay,
he had something he wanted to say.
Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is that's what's starting everything right now, and the blow up right now is these PMGs and all that stuff are out there, but there's so many different cards out there. Me and Scandell went to lunch on Friday, and we were just talking about like his PMGs and what he was trying to get at. He was trying to get a PMG and stuff on the Facebook group of Scarlet Witch or something like that. We were talking about that and everything. And we were just talking about how prices of jambalayas and prices of any insert that has any sort of known rarity is just like skyrocketed. Just the last 2 or 3 weeks it's happened. So yes, these PMGs are just the tip of the iceberg where everything else is going to be known what's going on. It's like, hey, like my local shop, just real quick to finish this off, my local shop, they're now asking me, hey, do you want to bring more Marvel cards in? I'm like, I already have a whole display. How many do you want? Oh, we were thinking about getting like two sets of displays for you. And I'm like,
that's awesome, man.
Do you want me to bring more in? I can, So people, and they're like, oh man, I'm thinking about just switching over to Marvel and all this stuff, just like Merle's been saying. So it's getting going.
That's awesome. So Swami, coming back to you. So again, I love the fact that you have a history in Pokemon because I don't know if I should say this on air yet, but it's real. So I'll go ahead and say it. I'm really passionate about Marvel cards growing past Pokemon. And that's a big statement. And there's a lot behind what I mean by that. I don't mean like globally as a value of a brand, but I mean like when I go to a card show in Dallas, I should see more Marvel cards than Pokemon, in my opinion. That's just where I'm at. So I'm curious for you as a previous, or I guess you may still collect Pokemon. What's your thoughts on PMGs and the future of them?
Yeah, it's funny how narratives get started. You saw a lot of old school Marvel guys. They're like, well, what about these? Like, why isn't this the deal? PMGs, everybody can get involved, right? They got the base silver. If you think about like 90s Impel, everybody knows those cards, and the Cosmic Spider-Man, that in high grade will kind of be quote unquote investable if it stays scarce, if the pops just don't explode. But it's kind of like that, the investable part of every hobby is like the top 1 to 5%. Not that things won't increase in value or you can't make money off of something, but if you go to any hobby, base set Charizard, right? It kind of goes from 50,000 in 2016, and jumps up to 350 in 2020, and like the PMGs can kind of carry the market cap for everything else and kind of give it some weight, so that, you know, if base set first edition's a little out of your range, you can go to 8 sets later and be confident, even if you're paying, you know, $200-300 a card or whatever it is, because it just brings that weight behind it, and it just yeah, there's some great cards in Marvel. PMGs, just it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, look at them.
Yeah. Right.
And you can have, you know, I just look at Logan with Charizard, and there's scarce cards, trophy cards. There's cards that there's only 2 or 3. There's cards where they only printed 140. Pokemon has those, but no one knows about them because they're Japanese, you know, event cards or something. So only like serious, you know, doing Pokemon when they get home from their 9 to 5, like everybody doesn't know about them, but everybody knows, you know, Impel Spider-Man. These PMGs, they'll easily know. I mean, just by looking at these things, base set, and yeah, it's just, that's what I think.
Awesome. So Neo, you recently did a video about, you know, the danger of a PMG crash, and which I think it's useful to, you know, for us to be cautious and even contrarian at times, so people don't get overhyped and make poor financial decisions. And I watched that video and loved it, but I'm still curious your opinion of what you think the future of the, quote, to use the investment term since that word's been thrown out, what's the market cap of PMGs?
I mean, I think the floor is extremely high. They're never going to go back to the days where you could get, you know, Fleer Ultra Spider-Man PMGs for, you know, $100, $200 or whatever, or, you know, even $1,000. That's never going to happen. But, you know, when you look at, we've seen it happen with sports cards, comic books, and even Pokemon over the last 2 years. All these markets spiked, and PMGs are slightly unique because they're hard number. But even on the sports card side of things, there's a lot of rare stuff out there. All this stuff went to astronomical prices, and in most cases, almost all of it at least came down somewhat. I mean, none of it. I mean, some of the more base, like, you know, there's tons of stuff retraced all the way back to where it is. Some of the other more rare stuff did establish higher floors, but nothing goes up forever. So at some point in time, something is going to trigger some sort of pullback, and I think it's just very important for people not to over leverage and not go all in thinking, like, because we saw this on the sports card side of things, oh, this stuff's just going to keep going up. The next one sells, it's 2x the other one. I'm going to buy it now, and in 2 weeks it's going to be double the price, and then all of a sudden it's not anymore. And maybe, you know, like I said, it's not going to necessarily like crash and burn, but I think there's still a lot of potential for people to get hurt if they're coming in at it with the wrong mindset, or thinking they're just instantly going to make money by buying these things.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. No, I get it. I mean, nothing grows forever. Every good gardener prunes his flowers and bushes so they can grow more healthy. You don't want overgrowth, right? And it's just really hard, at least for me, from where I sit right now, which is, you know, not the best perch in the world, to see, like, you know, where that growth potential is because of still how small the hobby is in a sense. You know, it's still a growing hobby.
Spidey, when you prune your bushes on your PMGs, let me know. All right.
You got it, bud. Look. All right. I'm gonna tell a quick story. I came home after getting married, and my wife had completely mowed down the roses, like to the stump, and I couldn't understand it. But it's because they grow back bigger and better. So everything needs to have a pruning that's healthy, right? And that'll happen in anything that's got a market around it, and certainly Marvel Cards does. And one day that'll happen. Bill, watch me up mid drink. So, you know, I get this question all the time, like, what is the next PMG? Like, when I say I get that question all the time, I mean, I probably got it while we were sitting here in my DMs, you know, all the time. And I'm not asking you to peg the next PMG, but what are some cards that you think that are getting overlooked that are still pretty special?
Yeah, absolutely. And so first, Dre, his comment, if somebody could pull that up. Dre is brilliant. I love him. But Swami, coming from Pokemon, I actually had the benefit of being on a video on a Pokemon channel that they were interested in Marvel cards recently. And I started to talk to them about Marvel cards, and yeah, everybody plugging their own stuff. But they were mentioning some of the things that they don't even have in Pokemon that are, like they don't have numbered cards in Pokemon, right, Swami?
Yeah, nothing. No sketches.
You don't have sketch cards in Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have printing plates in Pokemon. So these are a lot of things that I think, as far as the cross collector, it's going to be attractive. There are some specific inserts that are already, like, the tea leaves are there to be read specifically among Marvel card collectors. And actually, in a video I released today, I mentioned some of them. Looking at recent sales, 2016 Masterpieces base cards, tier 4. An out of 99 base card of Wolverine is going for $1,000. You obviously mentioned the Royal Foils. Royal Foils all the way across the board. They go from 10 to, what's the middle tier?
25.
25 to 99. A Miles out of 99 went for 1,600, something like that. And then X Century. Very, very, very early in the year, Spider-Man X Century out of 42 went for $6,000. And so that's an insert that this new wave of investors don't even know about, and it's already at $6,000 for a card out of 42.
Wow. So Daniel, Valor Comics, someone who's been in the hobby for about 30 days. Obviously, PMGs have caught your attention. What other cards have like grabbed you initially without anybody building any hype around it or telling you it's the next PMG? But what have you looked at and said, okay, well that's really got my attention?
Easily the Marvel Masterpiece series, just as an appreciation for the art that are on those cards, because they're on a whole nother level. Specifically talking about the 2018. Like, I'm a huge fan of the 2018 Marvel Masterpiece. And then whenever I started looking into that, I saw somebody on Instagram had posted the What If parallel to that set. And I had never seen that before. So somebody coming from a comic book background, and I see this homage of art where it has the first appearance of the character with new artwork. I was just like, that's the coolest thing ever. And it was the Green Goblin in that series specifically that just kind of kickstarted the whole momentum on my side, where I start looking into it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to just get this set. No biggie. I'm just going to get the whole set of 2018 Marvel Masterpiece because it's nothing, right?
Right.
So then I start looking into it, and I have to research and find, okay, well, you also have orange parallels and purple parallels, and understand what a parallel is to begin with, because from a comic book background, that's a different language. So I had to research and just really learn the language of cards, because it's not something you can just sit and watch you can't watch a box break as a first-time viewer and understand everything that's going on. So when I started researching it and learning about tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3 and tier 4, I was like, okay, well, I'll go try to get tier 4s knocked out really quick. And I found out that I can't find tier 4.
So I'm going to stay with you, Daniel, because I think this is actually really useful to the audience. Where are you going for your research, and how are you getting that validated?
I'm having the same way I would with comic books. You've got to start looking for your sold listings on eBay. So that's where you start seeing, okay, well, now I can go find data that has the most recent sale. Then I can start putting a numerical value to it, and then starting using websites like ComC, where you can see what's readily available versus what's sold, and start comparing the two numbers to try to figure out what a fair estimate is.
Yeah. And so speaking of estimates, like that's something that is getting more and more difficult because values are just changing so daggum rapidly. I literally watched someone buy a numbered card, and the next day, I don't know, because there was less of them on ComC, they doubled the prices from what someone had bought it the day before. We're seeing auctions in 7 days later after a sale, and it's nearly double. And that's really got me, curious about some of these bigger cards and bigger sets. And and Brian, the Amazing Spider Guy, I feel like asking you what you think your cards are going to sell for is kind of like, asking the moderator or the announcer of a football game, who do he thinks is going to win before the game, starts. So I don't want to do that, but I am pretty curious, what you guys think some of these values are, specifically of larger sets. Norn and I helped curate a full 2015 PMG set, and you're talking about all the reds, all the blues, and all the greens, not counting the golds, full set, all graded, which is insane. Brian, you're shaking your head because you know what that job's like. What do you think something like that, if it was sold as one big lot, all the greens, all the blues, all the reds, what it would sell for? And we're going to work back around. I'm going to go back to Billy first and get your thoughts, and we'll work back around.
Yes, me.
Yeah, bud.
What I think a full set
Did
of
you see it?
2015 red, blue, and green would or should sell for?
All right. Do you want to see a picture of it first, real quick?
No, I've seen it. It's burnt into my brain.
Oh, it is.
It's absolutely there. I mean, we're talking about minimum $500,000, right?
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, higher.
I mean, and like I said, that's minimum. It could be $1 million.
I think your greens alone are worth that. Personally.
Right.
Definitely.
I mean, that is just insane, guys. What about you, Neo? What do you think on something like that?
Is this going up for auction somewhere, or
No, not that I'm
this
aware
is
of.
just
It was
private
tagged on.
flex?
Yeah, it was tagged on Instagram, and to me, that's the along with Brian's full set. But I don't want to comment on his because his are going to auction. So I'm going to comment on this one instead.
So we recently had a red go for what, $70K, or was that 2013? That red set that sold a couple weeks ago.
The raw set.
Yeah, the raw set.
Yeah, it was like 87 plus BP.
I think around 600K, probably 700. It depends on, like, are we talking PSA 9s for key? I mean, you get into the weeds on like what are the key characters graded at and all that stuff.
Right.
But roughly, I'd say probably half to $750,000.
Goodness.
Without knowing the grades, just because a red set just sold for 100,000 by itself.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have the blues and the greens in there. So let's say the blues get you 250,000. That's 350 right there, just on the blues and the reds alone, and then whatever the greens would go for.
So, for me, there's got to be a way to figure out a multiplier, right? Like in some way. I was thinking through this with my Spidey Gwens. I bought the red for around 1,000. I bought the blue for around 2,000, and I bought the green for around 9,000. All within similar time frame. And so, if reds go for, what we say, raw 77,000, is that what we said? So I don't know what grade would be, but then you might say it's kind of a 5x multiplier once you get to the blues. So whatever the blues would sell for, then you can almost 5x it. And for just the greens alone, you're in the millions if that number stays true. So yeah, and I see you shaking your head. What are your thoughts?
The interesting thing there is if that went up for auction, do you have enough people willing to spend that high of a price to run it up to a number that we think would be fair?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, to say it's $1 million set is cool and all. Is there 2 people out there that would want to drop $1 million on that set? And I'm not saying that there's not. I'm also not saying that there could be 20 people that would easily throw $1 million at that. But like, your buyer pool is extremely small for something like that.
Yeah, well, they run in
Well, it
sketch
takes
car
2.
circle, not mine. So I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
I think the crazy thing is, and there were other comments about here on like the market. Is the market being manipulated? Is this happening? And there's a lot of talk of trying to figure out where the prices are for these PMGs. And I think the craziest thing to understand is that this is a full set, right? 42 cards, impossible. It really is a very difficult thing to put together. I mean, Amazing Spidey would know more, being a hunter of a full set himself. I've never had to do it. I know a lot of people who've tried or wanted to halfway, maybe kind of completed. Cards of Metal would know this better than me too, Ian. You know what I mean? So you guys have really seen that hunt for the PMGs. Having them all graded out of 42, you would have to get 63 boxes, I think it is. I wrote it down earlier so I wouldn't look like an idiot. 63 boxes, what they're going for now. That's a really difficult thing to do. And I have been talking to a few bigger buyers, people who can buy 80 of me. And it is interesting to see what that level of buyer does, like Neo says on his show, right? If they are looking to have the thing, right? It's like someone looking to buy art. If they're trying to get the thing is around here. You know what I mean? That kind of full set, which is weird because Marvel card collectors have always been set collectors. I said this a lot because that's always been my experience. From being in the hobby long enough and being previewed to have friends who have done this even longer than I have. So I'm interested to see how that works. I wouldn't be surprised if it hit the million mark. I really wouldn't. I'd be shocked because it would mean that the hobby got there and is still growing. And that would be really great because it would show that this hobby, what I've been saying for a long time with a lot of people who've been in this hobby for a long time, is that there's something really special here.
Yeah.
And
I'm
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I'm going to get to the rest of you. I'm going to make a statement and then I'm going to toss it to Cards of Metal. I think Marvel Cards is headed to where one card sells for $1 million personally. That's just my own personal opinion. But Ian, obviously, if I think one card will sell for over $1 million, then I think a full set of red, blues, and greens would do quite well. As someone dude, you've been in the game. You are the game in a lot of sense. Your opinion matters a great deal to me, so I'm curious where your thoughts are.
On the opinion of what?
On what a full set graded of 2015 PMGs would sell for.
Of 2015, we talking about the reds?
Talking reds, blues,
blues,
and greens all together.
and the greens. Does that exist?
It does. We just showed a photo of it.
You're paying attention.
Sketching, I helped curate a set
Of 15s.
of all of them.
13s, I thought, aren't they?
Of 15s.
15.
Full blue, full green, full red, one owner.
Oh wow! Okay, I thought those were Marvel cards or Spidey Guy. This Amazing Spider Guy's full set. That's what I thought those were. I can't see very good.
He did his on his own.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Zoom in. Yeah, I thought those were the 17 Spider-Mans.
It's hard. I didn't get a good photo, unfortunately. Wolverine. There he is.
Wow.
There's Spidey.
Wow.
And he's a 9 if I remember correctly.
Wow. That's amazing.
What's the blue Spidey?
I can't remember offhand.
That's
I
a
don't
He
want
wants
to
to put
speak.
an offer.
Yeah, that's amazing. Nowadays it's hard to say because of what they've been going for. But no, you're easily. I would say $1 million plus.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, the green set is alone. I mean, the red set, we'll see we've seen what that's been selling for, right? And then blue set, we don't know. Uncharted territory. Same thing with the greens, but I'm guessing in the $1 million plus.
Yeah. It's we've got people in the chat say 10 million and 2.5 million.
Oh my gosh.
I at this point I don't think so. I don't think 10 million, but I mean we're talking we're talking about 7 figures.
Yeah, low 7
Oh man,
for sure.
that's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, Brian, I have a lot of hope for your sets, full graded. And I think we've learned a little bit that where they're sold does matter because of the audience it attracts. And eBay has a massive audience, global audience, but it's not the only audience, and not everyone goes there to buy high-end collectibles. So I think I think you have them in the right spot, Brian. For your set.
Yeah, can I take the podium for a couple seconds?
You got it, brother. Go ahead.
About selling a whole set as opposed to selling the individual PMG colored sets. I was faced with that option: is do I want to sell my red through green in one single lot? And when at the time I had 37 of the purples, do I lump that in as well? Do I send those out too? So after some discussion, it was between me and Mickey's Precious Gems at the time, was no, let's keep them as sets. Let's see where this goes. Because as those start to hit market and become the first dominoes to fall for 2017 FUSM PMGs, that'll start to set the tone, and then you can kind of place your chips accordingly. So it was strategic, and coincidentally, the way they've come to market is not how I initially wanted or agreed to with Golden. The red set was supposed to come out in the Winter Elite, and the blue set was supposed to come out in the one that's happening today. PSA likely just got flooded with stuff, and the reds came back a little late. So we had to shift everything into what is happening now. And I'm okay with it. I did have some speculative concern about the buyer pool. You know, if someone's wanting to buy up the reds, are they also looking at the blues? But then I thought, if anyone's spending near six figures on a lot of cards, they're probably having enough to spend the same amount on another group of cards. So I was less concerned, but at least wanted to give it the option to split it if there were interested parties at one level as opposed to the other. So yeah, I don't think the market's ready for a full spread of red, blue, and green. We're getting there. And to address a comment from earlier I had read about manipulation, I think it's less about manipulation and more about appealing to a different group of buyers. Those buyers are not us, let's be honest. As much as we might wish, and I hate to speak for everybody in this group, we're not spending 1.5 on a, I mean, Gingy, maybe you, I don't know. But yeah, 1.5 on a set of cards. I don't think we are not personally there yet, and that's okay. I'm totally cool with collecting everything else that I love. PMGs I jumped into because I love them. That's how I got as far as I did. And then again, when the market changed, I was like, I still love them, but I'm also loving to sell them. So,
well, I got another question for you real quick. And that you have red and blue going up of 2017 Flare Ultra Spider-Man. Will they end at the same time, or will they end at different times?
They are ending at the same time.
Does that make you nervous?
Not really, because I know the people that are of the ilk to be making these buys probably have assistants on different computers making these bids for them. So I'm less concerned about that. So I'm hoping this sets a tone for the rest of the market. We've seen what the raw reds did for 2013. We've seen what some of the other single cards have been hitting at. I'm really curious to see where these go. If anyone has any speculation, I'm happy to hear it. I've heard some outliers on where they put these sets, and you know, I'll just say it because it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And I fully don't anticipate them to hit this. Maybe not now as the first one. Maybe 3 or 4 sales in, we'll see it. But some guys are saying that the blue set's going to sell for 400, and then the red's going to be at like 190 to 2. I think that's a couple years away. I don't think that's happening now, but I'd be happy to be a part of the movement that gets us there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I've actually heard similar, and oddly enough, not quite those numbers, but enough to make me go, if that happens, buckle up, you know, kind of thing. But look, hey, everybody in the chats, and we're up to 109 viewers. I'm so stoked, guys. Marvel Cards, baby.
13 days, 2 hours, and 1 minute, in case anybody's curious when
Curious of when that ends. But we
Hey,
actually
can I add some to that real quick, Justin?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the advantages to doing what he's doing, selling it at the auction house, is remember, it doesn't just go bam, shotgun end like eBay.
Right.
There's extended bidding if people want to keep going. That last bid hits, it extends another X amount of time, and X amount of time, and X amount of time, which is an advantage to putting these things as a seller into an auction house like that, because you know it's not going to be just last second, boom, boom. You have some extended period there. So, I think
Kent,
that's a big advantage.
you're onto something, because, I have to actually watch how much gas I put in my car. These people pump, staring out into the sun, they don't care. They got plenty of money, so they can just bid to their heart's content. They're not worried about resources and I'll just put it in the reds, or I just put it in the blues, or, whatever. But we actually have a real treat. So speaking of the owner of the full 2015 set, we've got Steven with us. Hey, Steven,
hey guys.
What's up, man?
Hey guys, happy Sunday.
You heard us talking about your cards?
I heard bits and pieces of it while I was trying to figure out how to log on with you guys.
That's all right. You got a picture of Michael Jordan behind you, don't you? Well, we're here
Let's
talking
see.
about Marvel cards.
Well, it depends on
Sports
who your
case.
favorite who your favorite character is. No
So
pun
what-
intended.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about this full set that you posted on Instagram the other day.
I think it's a huge accomplishment. You know, it's interesting because my perspective is I look at everything in terms of the bigger picture versus individualized, which is why I love seeing a complete set, you know, and its presence and what it means, and you get to really appreciate all the artwork, you know, no matter who the character is. So to me, looking at something like that, and realizing how helpful you guys have been in the Marvel community for the short period of time that I've been in, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody here, in any way that you helped contribute, in helping me being able to assemble this is a tremendous accomplishment, and it feels great. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Now you're not looking to sell that set anytime soon, are you?
Nah, it took too much work to put it together.
Do you
But
have a
hey,
Do you have
you
a
never
thought on?
know.
You have a thought on Brian's set that's going to be in an auction?
Brian, that's an incredible set. I mean, you really inspired me to do that, with the set that we put together, and it takes that. Now I understand what you went through to accomplish that. It's hard to see that go up.
We have a term for you. It's called a one-upper.
I had one of them
Nah.
friends when I was growing up.
We're all equal. It's not
Yeah.
about that. It's, you know, it's just about helping and educating people. And, you know, like, it's funny because, like, everybody's like talking, you guys, I heard you guys talking a little bit about like PMGs and, you know, the market as a whole. You know, I see it really the same, truthfully, for everything. I'm sitting here on my desk. I don't know if you guys can see, but these were the cards that you guys were talking about a little bit ago, right?
Yeah.
These holofoil cards. So I've been taking a little stab at that. Let's just say that, but I like the artwork on those as well. I think that there's anything that has that shiny, unique look and feel to it and touch to it, that sparkles. I think it doesn't matter who you are; it's going to catch your attention.
So, Stephen,
And
if I can
go
just
ahead.
stay with you for a moment, you know, something caught your eye, something shiny, obviously said, okay, there's this thing over here called Marvel cards. I think I'm going to spend an enormous amount of money in it. Like what,
Right.
Give me a little bit of that journey or that story, that moment in time when that happened for you.
So it's really interesting. You know, I'm not truthfully the biggest Marvel fan, although, you know, who isn't a Marvel fan? But what's really interesting to me is, I have a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old boy and a girl right in the middle. And one night, you know, I'm a big sports person, as you guys know, and I've been, you know, ahead of the game there a little bit, and always seeing transitions in different categories and different businesses and everything that I do. And I saw this card. It was like a Captain America card. And I think at the time it was like sitting on eBay. And I called, it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting in bed. And I'm like, hey, kids, come here for a second. I'll ask you something. Because they're huge Marvel collectors and fans. And I said, hey, what do you think of this? And my youngest was like, Dad, that's the coolest card I've ever seen. And he's like, could you buy that for me? And I'm like, absolutely. And so for me, you know, he really wasn't as passionate about sports cards. And for me, that was like, you know, how much could I pay for that to see a kid be passionate about something, doesn't matter what category, what sport, something that they felt good about that they needed to own. And so once I saw that, I was like, a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, this is incredible. Like, I could connect with my kids about something that they're passionate about, and it's hard numbered, and it's a beautiful looking card, and it's something that they're going to cherish forever. I'm like, that's priceless. And so that kind of opened up all of the Marvel space to me, and, you know, trying to understand, you know, how come I didn't know this existed before?
No, that's awesome. No, thank you for sharing that. I think the mass appeal is there. It hasn't happened yet. People have heard me say this. you can't go to the Walmart checkout line and get a Marvel card. You can get a Pokemon
Right.
card, a Yu-Gi-Oh card, a Magic card, a sports card, but not a Marvel card. And it's just honestly, it's actually hard for me to even fathom what this hobby looks like once that happens, or how big it is once that happens. It's just because it's
I
already.
mean,
Hold on,
sure,
Stephen, hold on
sure.
1 second, but sorry. So it's just really hard to really envision how many people are going to join, collecting Marvel cards, and what that's going to do for the prices of some of these cards, and if there's even going to be enough. And so I'll come back to you, Stephen. So with that reality as a possibility, do you think number one, do you think it's going to happen? And if so, like, what is it going to end up looking like?
I think naturally it's happening right now. I think a lot of the things that you guys are discussing in terms of seeing these big jumps and spikes in the market, I mean, from a high level, if you really think about it, I love Zion Williamson as an example, who's a basketball player, and Panini's printed, 500,000 Zion base cards and only a certain amount of numbered cards, from, call it 100 serial number to 199 and down. The lower you go down the chain, the more desirable they are. So there's a lot of like relevance to saying, hey, I can own a card that I know how much supply is there, and you have the color coordination. It's not like you have 78 different versions here. It's like pretty simple. It's blue, green, red or golds in those instances, or bronze. And you just got to look at the whole picture, and say, hey, Marvel's producing so many new movies, so many new shows. There's no injury risk of a player getting hurt. When it comes to this category, this is a category that's been around forever. It's pop culture. How many more people could actually relate to this over sports? Or, Tom Brady just lost a massive game, and, people are like, oh, it's the end of the world. He's the GOAT. That's established. Spider-Man's the GOAT. Captain America's the GOAT. Like, guys, this is like a much smarter investment than a lot of other things that people are investing money in.
Goodness. It's hard to think about Marvel cards as an investment. And so I want to toss this over to Gingy. Gingy, your channel is Gingy Man Cards. What is it? Something in investments, collecting and investing, right? So you've been using that language, for a while now. Do you see your audience engaging with you with Marvel cards and viewing them as an asset, as an investment?
100%. Yeah. When I started creating content almost, a year ago now, it was very much, Sketch. You'll probably agree with me. I was probably frowned upon by many, and slowly over the past kind of 3-4 months, people have really started thinking, okay, this makes complete sense. Like Ginger Man might be. I'm not saying I'm right. Definitely not. Far from it. But he might be. What he's saying might be correct. These cards actually could go the whole hog, and it could actually be an asset. Again, Stephen said it so well. Like, and again, I use my son all the time as an example. He knows every single character of the Avengers. He's 5, and many, many more. When we think about the hobby and the cycles and the whole shebang, it just makes complete sense. And again, I don't know how we've not come to this years sooner, but here we are, right?
Yeah, we need to do kind of this look back of how did Marvel stay hidden for so long?
Yeah,
and explain, how it's even possible that we wake up at 2022 and Marvel, the brand and the property is so large, but yet the Marvel card is still, rather small. I mean, I got a message today from a somewhat local comic book shop that just now became an upper deck distributor for Marvel cards. They have Pokemon, they have sports, they have Star Wars, and they're like, and we just now got Marvel cards, which is kind of crazy when you think about the brand popularity, so to speak. So honestly, guys, like that really wraps up the series of questions I have. I know we have a ton of people still in the chats. I'd love to get to some of those questions. And then were there any, let me do this, any other thoughts that you wanted to leave with us? And let's start with Swami.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting with Marvel. You saw in Pokemon like the 20-year rule where kids when they're 5 to 10, 20 years later, they got their own money, they can kind of spend their own way. That happened with Pokemon. If you think about Marvel crushing over the last 15 years, they just have ruled the world. They're all over the place. But I wanted to just reiterate, like the first thing Neo said about, I don't know where they're at right now with prices. Like prices could come down. Everything has. Everything's kind of gone through a cycle. And I was just thinking, we were talking about those full sets. That's big dog money, right? Like that's a different buyer when you compare, like if you're going to buy PMGs today, maybe you pick one up. I saw the Vision 2015. I saw the green on there, and I was thinking, I missed out on the gold. I was trying to bid on that gold. It went to like 1,300 or something, or maybe I went to 1,300. But it's like, I don't even know where that would be today, right? If you had the right buyers looking at it. So, but it's definitely ramped up, and we saw sports ramp up. We've seen it in Marvel already with the 90s. They kind of ramped up and pulled back. Pokemon. So just a little reminder, like there's one thing we're talking about, like big dog, just speculating, wonder where this could end up. Because I would be excited if I've watched Charizard go from 50 to 350 over the last 5 years. It'd be cool if Spider-Man went from 2 to over 350 over Charizard at less than 1.5. Like that'd be wild. But yeah, that's all I got.
Swami, you bring up an interesting point, and that I've thought about quite a bit is, we've seen a $132,000 sale of a single Spider-Man card. We haven't even seen the best cards go up in auction recently. And it's interesting to speculate, right, on what that might would end at and what somebody would ultimately be willing to pay for, really special, green PMG 2013 Spider-Man or even the 15 and the 17, so to speak, or the gold 1 of 1, right, would be another one that would be pretty special. So I think you're going to see a Marvel card top Charizard sooner rather than later, in my opinion. It's just the trends are there. Neo, do you have any kind of parting thoughts for yourself?
I'll circle back on something Chat was talking about earlier about the market manipulation angle. And I think is there market manipulation going on? I think there's two different types to consider. There's like the whole shill bidding, fake sale thing. And I actually don't think that probably happens all that much. More shill bidding than just straight fake sales. I think where market manipulation happens, and it happens constantly, is, I mean, technically, every person sitting on the screen right now, we're literally manipulating the market every time we speak about this stuff. Every video that we make, every IG post that we make, every IG post. I mean, none of us are Steve Aoki, but it doesn't matter. Someone with a small, especially in a market this small, there's not a lot of population counts or numbered cards or whatever you want to talk about. The inventory is not large. It does not take much to swing a market when the inventory is that small. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the type of market manipulation that you see. And it's not necessarily overt. We're not overtly doing it. I mean, sure, maybe some people are, but, so is there market manipulation happening? 100%. But I think it's more that style of market manipulation than someone going out and making a fake sale of $150,000 card. I think it's more about, look what I just bought or look what I'm buying than it is the fake sale stuff when it comes to market manipulation stuff.
Good point. Joshua Madness, you got any parting thoughts? You like when I call you Joshua Madness?
Yeah, no, you're fine. I was just trying to unmute myself. No, I would say just keep watching Cards of Metal and watch me open and Marvel Guy 239. Like, it's all for me. I mean, there's a lot of cool cards out there, correct. But what are we trying to do? We're trying to bring more people in. So those who missed the boat on a lot of stuff, I think we just need to keep doing the box breaks we're doing. I have a lot of stuff that I still need to open. Like, I got a lot of the sealed product and all that stuff. So I'll be ABR all the way, And my next video that I'm preparing, it's just gonna basically break down the set, just talk about the set and just why I love this set. And it's a very special set to me. So it's going to be awesome. And that's really where it's all about. I mean,
I love it. We need our content creators to continue to educate and content create and share our passion and joy for Marvel cards. And we actually need more content creators, in my opinion. Not that you guys are not all great, but at the rate that the hobby is going to grow, I think it's going to be.
We're on the bottom floor right now, guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, just all of us are going to be like, whoa, this guy's been from the beginning, and all that. So
right,
it's going to be cool.
All right, Joshua, thank you, man. I'm gonna bring Merle on. Merle, do you have any parting thoughts? You're muted, my friend.
Unmute you. Buy a lot of Marvel. It's still early, guys. I was also going to ask you all. I had just got these recently back from PSA, and I still don't know much about them. So if you all, on another show, can tell me more about these cards. I think they're for me packs, but I got PSA 9s on them, so I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, I mean,
because they're die cuts and everything. I didn't think I would get that good of a grade.
That's awesome. You bring up a point about graded cards. So much of Marvel isn't graded.
Mm-hmm.
One of the comments I got recently that really opened my eyes was this: someone coming from the sports card hobby saying what they've been most surprised by is how few Marvel cards are graded. And it had me look at my own personal collection. I'm like, you know what? 95% of my collection's not graded. It's raw. Mm-hmm. And that's how most Marvel card collections sit. There's a few exceptions, obviously, but that tells people coming from the outside who have been in, the game of trading cards that this is still in its infancy because so few of it is even graded. Because we don't really even talk about pop. We talk about how rare the card is, we're not even at pop reports yet. So pretty cool. Merle, thank you, man. Appreciate
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Hey, so Kent, what about you, bud? You got any?
Well, it's funny. So a couple of things. So one of the things that Josh just said is a discussion that I had today at this card show was about content creators. And if you go look up sports cards, you find 1 million YouTubers on sports cards and on Pokemon cards. They're everywhere. But you go try and look up Marvel cards, you find 10, 12, 15 people max. And you're absolutely right. We need more because, and I understand that what Neo's saying. It is, maybe inadvertently on our part, market manipulation, but at the same time, it's enthusiasm for something that we care about, and we're trying to bring education to people about, hey, there's more to this than PMGs. And then once we get more people involved in the hobby, that's what really expands it to, hey, Upper Deck, maybe let Topps make a few cards, let some other people, so we get more sets out there and we get more product, because they're definitely the demand. I mean, there's demand now, but there's massive demand coming. Mm-hmm. And I think, and the other discussion that I had today with all these sports guys was about numbered cards. And that's one of the things that, Pokemon stuff, I spent $1,000 recently on Pokemon stuff just to open it, do research, see what I could get. And I got 2 of the most popular cards in 2 of the sets that I pulled. And they're the only cards that had any significant value. And that value was around $250. Wow. Versus, the sports cards, there's so many of them. And I said, how many of those cards are there? And then how many of this, numbered to 50 card are there? That's just, and you're right. And I had 3 slabs in my case, 3, that's it. Because I, was saying to these people, there's really not this huge need for us to grade them yet. That's coming, but it's not a you must grade your card to get it sold or to get a good, price or value on something if you wanted to sell it, because the rarity is just built in.
Yeah, and Kid, you bring up a great point with product availability. That's my biggest concern about the growth and the future of this hobby is cards is the oxygen that we breathe on, right? That and if we get cut off on having product available, it's going to prevent the hobby from being able to grow at the.
It makes me really want to rip that.
Yeah, it does. But even though it's,
but I'm not yet.
Yeah, awesome. So ABR, but always be ripping, right? So.
I know.
All right, Bill, parting thoughts from you, my friend. You look good, by the way. Hold on, I just got to do this real quick, man. I don't know if you got a haircut, what you did at your background. but it is straight working.
Oh, thank you. So I think we have a pretty cool thing going on right here, and I don't just mean this video or this little community. I mean Marvel cards in general. It's a very cool thing that we get to be a part of and we get to enjoy, and I think it's important to kind of abide by the title of Gingy Man's YouTube page, right? It's Marvel card collecting and investing. It's not Marvel cards collecting or investing. It's Marvel cards collecting and investing. And I feel like the people that are going to really make up this community and help it grow are the ones that participate in both, are the ones that have passion about the characters and the ones that understand that there is a financial aspect to it, that you need to feed the beast. You need to sell some things in order to stay in the game. Because like we've said all night, nobody on this call has the unlimited resources. And you could see how important collecting is to some people, even people that have invested time and resources. You look at Steven, who you asked him straight up. You said, "You moving that?" And he said, "Nope." when most of us are probably, if we had it, be like, "Yep, we're moving it."
Right.
And so that's really cool because that's the collecting side of it, right? That's the appreciation, the passion. It's the type of attitude that's going to support this hobby long term.
Man, so eloquent. That was awesome, dude. Thank you. I'm gonna kick it over to Steven. Steven, you jumped on late, but you brought a lot of value. Any parting thoughts for you?
I think that you guys use a word that's commonly used in terms of, you're saying, market manipulation. There's no market in this world that's not manipulated. I don't care what industry you're in, what category you're on. Let's just call it what it is. And there's a big difference between manipulation and being able to inform people in the process of something that they may have not been aware of prior. And that's called education. By you seeing and posting the content that you're posting, at the end of the day, it may take just one post for me to look at something and be like, hey, that is super cool. I didn't know that that existed. I didn't know that was something that I can actually go out and buy, even if it's one card, one character. That's how you start building a set. At the end of the day, you start with one, you pick up another one. There's value in all of it. At the end of the day, as long as Disney and pop culture is there and you're buying cards that are limited supply, that have nice artwork or have some sort of a story behind it, I think this is just the beginning. I think you're going to see multi-million-dollar sales very soon in this category. It has to. You're having it in comics. It's funny. I had a conversation with somebody, and I'll leave you off with this. Somebody said to me, I love comic books because, there's established values there. And I said to them, when you get a comic book graded, what do you see? The front and the back. You're not looking, you can't read the book. It's
Right.
graded. That's the whole point of grading it. And that's beautiful, but really all you're getting is the artwork on the front cover and the context in the back. And so when you can have a card that's portable and tangible and something that, you don't have to take boxes and lug around and fill up your whole trunk with, and you can easily tell a story, there's a lot of value in that, especially with this character, with these characters and the new characters that are coming out. And, it's a good point you mentioned, a lot of the sets have different years. Miles Morales, clearly, Brian was talking about in the 2017 set. I think that's going to be massive. And, if you look back in 5 years from now, we're going to be like, each one of these characters had developed into something that means something to somebody today. So it's generational. Start with one card, build your collection. Everything's achievable. Brian's a great example of showing that. I mimicked, and it's just one card at a time. Marvel cards, baby. Let's go.
Oh, dude, yeah, absolutely. Hashtag Marvel cards, baby. I love it. Thank you, Steven. That was awesome. So, Brian, you win the background contest today. You didn't know that there was one, but you brought the light show. I love it. I felt bad even taking you out of the stream a few times.
Should have a Silver Surfer in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. That's
I'll send you one.
Awesome. Yeah.
No,
But yeah, man, toss up your closing thoughts for us.
Oh, do we have enough time? Yeah,
Yeah, I think we do.
gosh, I have to like go on a quick tangent on the metal series, retro 13, 15, and then 2017. Obviously, we've got Spider-Man coming out. We've had X-Men, which to some was less than had met their expectations. And I'm looking at these 3 years of PMGs, and I'm thinking, wow, these are kind of ushering in where we're at today, right? That's the foundation. Like you see it in the comments. I've been getting messages like, wow, you guys are just talking about PMGs today. Huh? I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. Yeah. But I have to give my not so impartial battle cry for 2017. It's the thicker card stock, the shiniest of shiny cards. It's a real premium product, and because I'm only a Spider-Man collector for the most part, that's the only metal set I got into. I don't have any of the other stuff, even a onesie twosies. And I got into it because it took me right back to 95, that nostalgia hit, right? There's a lot of research surrounding what nostalgia does to people, especially in time of crisis. And that happened to every one of us in this chat for the last year and a half, 2 years. As this boomed, we all got drawn into this nostalgia. And 2017 FUSM did that for me. And then the PMGs were the shiny part that really took all my money. But I want to touch on grading as well. I learned recently that there's only 15 Gem Mint 10s from PSA in that set across all like 900, or was it 700 submissions? Forget how many PMGs are on PSA's pop report, but there's only 15 10s, which I think is absolutely insane. And so I think we're going to see 2017 as being kind of the exit year of PMGs being what they are. I feel like what X-Men did, it took it down a couple of notches. And I know there's a lot of interest in Spider-Man and Spidey Jew. I know you've got a lot riding on that too. I'm excited to see what the product brings, but I'm hoping it's better than X-Men and might keep this thing going in a lot of ways. But I also feel like 13, 15, and 17 are really going to be held in such high regard that those are going to be the 3 years of PMGs where people are going to remember that forever. There we go.
Yeah, Brian, I'm with you. It's going to mark an era, 13 to 17. And I actually think, and Sketch Card knows I've been saying this privately, 17's passing 15, period. End of discussion. It's passing 15. It's going to be the more special set. And from a 2015 retro 2, you just hits galore. But there's a ton of good sets in 17 as well. It's been a bit overlooked, but I agree. So Ian, Cards of Metal, the breaker of Marvel cards, as I've been calling you. You didn't know that, but I've actually been calling you that. And what are your parting thoughts?
Well, don't let FOMO hit you. I think a lot of people are worried about 13s, 15s, 17s, 18s, PMGs, missing the boat. There's a lot of other cards. These things they're way up here right now. I got a hand here, way up here, right?
Yeah.
There's cards that are just as valuable down here that you guys can get into. You just got to think about it. Don't go collecting because everybody else says, oh, the PMGs are where it's at. You need to get PMGs. There's other cards to collect. Collect what you like, right? I put the hashtag in everything that I do. Mm-hmm. It's because of that. There's other sets that are going to come. There's sets that are coming out now. There's sets that are going to be coming out new that are going to be just as special. So go after those. Don't worry about what everybody else is saying.
Love that, man. Thank you for that. Ginger Man, what you got? Are you frozen? Is he frozen?
He froze on a good face, though. Got to give him that.
Yeah, he did. He nailed it. Normally, it's a much worse
if I'm going to freeze, I'm going to freeze right.
Yeah. All right, Sketch Card. What you got?
I couldn't say anything else. Honestly, everyone summed it up so well. I'm so glad to be amongst you all and making friends with you all. I mean, I've been doing this for, like Justin said, 10 plus years. Cards of Metal, Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, there's people in here far wiser than I am and knew what they were doing before I even got here. But I will say this to everyone out there. There are going to be cards that are going to meet some pretty high ceilings, and you're going to see a big growth in the hobby. And I think we still have plenty of room to grow. And that's not speculation. That's just seeing the data. And we've all talked about this in some way. Again, I'm going to echo what Cars of Metal said. No FOMO. There is more than enough great Marvel cards out there. I've only been collecting Surfer, but I can't tell you, I'm always tempted by every insert, every set, and it's all great. And I hope all of you are going to have a great time, and I think it's going to be a blast.
Lovely, man. Love it. Ginger Man cards, you froze beautifully, by the way. I don't know how you did that. Rarely happens, but now you're back. Any parting thoughts for you?
Yeah, man. Just extremely blessed and excited to be part of all this kind of this community. I think the only thing I want to say is be nice to each other. There's going to be a lot of new collectors come in. I know there's a lot of OGs out there not too happy, and that's a shame. But this is what's happening. This is what's going to happen. So let's do it together, and yeah, just enjoy the hobby. I'm really excited for the future. Plenty more content to come, and yeah, a pleasure seeing you all today.
Awesome. First of all, let me just say it's an honor to be with each and every one of you in this. Just, I can't help but be a little bit reminiscent of January last year, desperate for Marvel card content, and all I can find is Neo and Swaggle House. That's it. A few videos. And I made this video about this struggle of changing my channel to a Marvel card channel. And, you know, I like even want to get emotional just seeing the growth of the hobby, seeing you guys here and the excitement and where Marvel cards has gone in just a year, seeing, you know, that we have 93 plus 100 viewers on, which is, I know that's small to a lot of people, but for me, that's a big deal. And I didn't get to read all the chats, but it looks like it's been very active and engaging. So a couple of different things I would want to say. You don't have to own a single Marvel card to enjoy this community, to be a part of it, to give to it, to contribute to it, to make content around it. The cards are the bonus. The cards the benefit, right? So don't hurt yourself. Be responsible. What do we say? Collect responsibly, right? You know, e-pack responsibly. I learned that one the hard way. That's another story, another video for another day. Yeah, I'm not alone. But yeah, look, you know, be wise. Have a good group around you. Don't have a bunch of people just giving you what you want to hear. It's okay to have some people that in your group that doesn't always agree with you. Make space for them, which is important. A word that's really important for me is grace. Let's have grace for one another in this hobby as we continue to grow. There'll be growing pains together, which is awesome because that means we're doing it together, right? And, you know, look, I'm like Gingy, Marvel cards, baby, right? And also have a marvelous day.
Hold on.
What?
Marvel cards, baby.
Yeah. Love it.
The accent.
I appreciate every one of you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Moon Knight.
We'll see you
Later,
soon.
everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Bye.